The following program was made possible thanks to the generous support of our Kickstarter backers.
Well, first Holmes was born, then he got tubular and radical, yeah.
Sup, Holmes?
Beware your host, Jonathan Holmes!
Whoa, and we have a triple cast this week. So exciting. Raigan Burns, Shawn McGrath, and Mare Sheppard all on the show? This is wonderful. How are you guys doing?
Good. Tired.
Yeah, I bet. You've been working on a game, I heard, for the past 10 years straight.
Exactly. Non-stop.
Every single day.
In all seriousness, N++ was first started to get hatched in 2005. Is that right? After N+? No, not quite right.
Well, N came out in 2004, and we sort of finished enough of it in 2005. Then N+ was in 2008.
Oh.
And maybe around 2010, we started thinking maybe about N++, but not really until 2012.
Oh, I heard wrong. I apologize. So it's been...
Well, I mean, it's a rich tapestry.
Indeed. And it's what was maybe correct is that N has been around for about 11 years, I think. 2004, you said, the original free version, which is still up today on the website earlier. I was like, oh, look at that. This survived 11 years of internet existence. And now N++ is almost out on PlayStation 4. Is that right?
Yep.
Oh, any day. One of these days.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Almost.
How does it feel to maybe be on the cusp of being done with this thing that's been in your life for so long?
Good, actually. Really good. I think it's going to be great to be done, right? That's going to be amazing.
I'm going to go with Shawn's answer of tired from the previous question.
Yeah.
The last time I was in this state of game development, I swore I would never do it again. And yet here we are.
And the last time, I'm assuming, Shawn, you're talking about Dyad, which you released on the PlayStation 3. And you made an awesome, people can go dig the old Destructoid videos. You made a really cool, like, kind of like being in a car, but if you were going to die in a car.
I did make one of those death car machines.
You did. I loved it. It was Mad Max Fury Road before there was Mad Max Fury Road, but with a beautiful, colorful racing game that is not a rhythm game. And we had a great talk about that. People should go find that episode with the scotch. Great.
Yep, it's good.
Yeah.
Keep the tradition alive.
Yeah. And Shawn, how did you end up getting involved with Metanet, with Raigan and Mare working on N++?
I've been friends with them for 8-9 years, something like that, and they needed somebody to help, and I wanted to help, so I regret every minute of it.
And if we could start with Raigan, then Shawn, then Mare, on what your roles are in development.
I guess I do a bit of everything except for programming, which Shawn does. But I don't do that much marketing stuff. And this time it's my job to find all the mistakes in the levels.
Oh.
Which is a bigger job than it was last time. But
much bigger.
Hopefully there aren't any more. But we did just find a level with no exit yesterday, so
oh shit.
We'll see.
I can run analytics on the levels.
That would probably be good.
Yeah.
And Shawn, I follow you on Twitter. I've seen some tweets, some pained code language tweets. I follow programmers on Twitter, and it's like following someone from Greece or something on Twitter. I don't know what they're saying, but I can feel something from what's being said. Like I know.
Is it rage and anger?
It's angst and self-loathing and like hating like
bingo.
What it was made out of, like the actual like DNA of existence is hurting you. That's how it looks. So you're.
Yeah, that's about right.
And you're doing the programming or programming assistance on N++?
Yeah, I'm programming the whole nightmare thing.
The whole thing. Good grief.
Yeah.
And when
it's almost as many lines of code as The Witness, but The Witness had 8 programmers. So take that.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah.
I just copy and paste a lot, so it doesn't really count.
From The Witness?
No. I just copy and paste. Yes, actually.
Why did we think of that?
Half of the puzzles of The Witness I actually secretly stole and put them into N++ just by copy and paste accidentally.
Now I want that game. I want N++ first, and then that game after, please. And Mare, well, what's your role at Metanet in working on N++?
Well, Raigan and I both do some prototyping. Like, we've been tweaking a couple things, lately, but we really should stop adding new stuff at this point. But anyway, and we also do level design, and I'm, a bit of everything, but right now, lots of the color testing. Like, we have 60 color schemes in N++, so there's a lot of work just making sure that you can actually read all the text and
in all the different colors.
Yeah, in all the different colors, and making sure that they work okay, and then marketing and publishing crap too.
Wow. Yes.
We should point out that like all kinds of games these days have like millions of colors. This game only has 8,000 handcrafted colors.
That's right.
We don't do any kind of weird millions. There's like literally that's like part of what Mare's job that she didn't mention was is she has to go through all the colors and check them all. But there's only like 8,000.
Yeah, there's only 8,000.
Yeah. But it's just different than most games because we've hand selected every color that's on the screen.
Yeah.
Not just like throwing some transparent stuff up there and let the graphics script take care of it.
Oh, sure. A game can have millions of colors, but they just turn gradient on, like white to black.
They have millions of shades of brown and green in most games.
Yeah.
But and everything about N and N+, and I'm assuming N++ has had like a real handcrafted feel to it. Like you almost can, when you're playing it, you can picture you drawing the ninja and drawing the shapes. It has a kind of touched by human hands sense to it. Has that been intentional, or is that just a style that you can't help but put forward?
The graphics technology is, as far as I know, the way it computes vector shapes has never been done in video games, ever, as far as I know. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. It uses this crazy thing that we came up with. And every single vertex on the screen, including the menus, all of the animations and stuff, I hand drew them all. Like, every single point is hand done.
In code.
In code. And then
you have to merge with the matrix first so that you can see it all. And then,
it was the same.
And then, like, all the animations, like all of the entities have really like subtle, small animations, and all of those I programmed those by hand. So like if you see something move, it was done with like literally by hand.
Yeah.
Artisanal vectors.
Yeah.
That's why it took 2.5 years.
Again, like if I remember correctly, Dyad, you didn't have an artist. You made art in code somehow. Like, it's very hard for a lot of people to completely understand what that means. But you can somehow, like Raigan said, you go into the matrix and understand that letters and numbers will create colors and shapes, and somehow make that translation in your brain, I'm assuming. And they're able to make these beautiful...
It wasn't a metaphor. He literally jacks in through the back of his head. That's how he wrote so many lines of code.
It's true.
His time goes slower there.
The Dyad was a little different because I just threw a bunch of colors on the screen I just threw shit at the screen until it looked good. N++ is a little bit more careful. Like, a lot more careful. Like...
Yeah, like looking at little, like Shawn's like, oh, I found a bug, and it's like literally 1 pixel. That's all.
Yeah, it's kind of unacceptable.
Yeah, you're a known perfectionist, Shawn McGrath. You worked on Dyad for not 1 year, not 2 years, if I remember correctly.
It was about 2.5. It's about as long as N++.
Right, a little bit long.
Part-time, so.
It's kind of crazy, because I think especially with N++, we're pretty perfectionists. We're perfectionists as well. So it's this like awful situation where nobody wants anything to be bad at all, like even remotely bad. And I think that's contributing to why it's taking so damn long to finish this thing. But
it used to really suck, but now that it's almost done, it seems like it's good in hindsight because everything's so amazing.
Yeah, like I can't stand software that delays. Like if there's if I press a button or do something and there's like any perceptible delay, like I just consider that to be completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
So I had to transfer that over to everything. So like there's no load times. Like you can scroll through a list of 200,000 levels instantly. You can do. It's just insane. Like,
yeah, it's awesome. It's like the best thing. It's
so
like industrial strength fun. Huh?
Well,
how many darn levels are in this game? 200,000?
Well, no, there will be several thousand that we've made,
we've handcrafted.
But then there's also a level editor built in with global level sharing and stuff, and we don't know how many. Like, we're hoping it will be really popular because the tools, like the editor, is really fun to use and like powerful and fast and stuff. And like the original had literally the worst. It had an editor that used every key in the keyboard, and if you pressed the wrong one, it would delete your progress. And using that, people made like 100,000 or 200,000 levels. So we're hoping that with nice, fun tools, people, make even crazier things.
Sure, but how many levels did you say you guys made?
Several thousand.
Several thousand. It will launch with 2,360, I think. But then by the end, the thing is, we sort of started making levels in 2010. We didn't know what for. We were just like kind of having fun.
Yeah, they're fun to make.
But
great.
So we actually have about 4,000 levels done. But the thing is, it takes so long to edit them and organize them. It's like making the levels sort of like only the first half of the work. So we didn't have time to put them all in. But it's good anyways, because if we had put everything in, I think it would be too overwhelming. So like once the game comes out, we'll be doing updates that add new levels and stuff. But we think it'll be like anyways 2,300 something to start with. That'll like hopefully tide you over until the rest of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, because we're trying to make this the last version of N that we ever make, we want it to last for a really long time. So that's why we're trying to put in a hilariously over the top number of levels so that it will last people a lifetime. Because we're not making another one, so it better.
And marketing tip. I don't know, maybe this is a bad idea, but to let people know, like, you can beat a level really fast, though. Like, say it exactly like that.
Yeah.
You can beat a level really fast. Because they're going to be scared. Like, I'm already scared thinking about, because when I get a game, my instinct is to see everything in it. I don't think
you should be scared then. Definitely. Definitely be scared.
What did we say at speedrun us? Like 30, 40 hours?
I don't think you could speedrun every level in the game at launch in less than 30 hours.
Really?
For sure less than 20 is impossible.
Yeah.
Like just flat out impossible. But we'll see. People are pretty good at stuff. So
They are. They enjoy it. Stuff. They get good at it.
It's I think it's one level a day for 10 years. So if you want to just take it slow, you can do it that way.
The good thing is though, all of your speedrun time will be playing the game because the menus take 0 seconds. Right? That shit's instant.
Huh. So maybe a way of selling it is an all-you-can-eat buffet that is being tubed into your mouth, and it's delicious the entire time for like...
With like a diesel pump just slamming it.
For 30 hours. Yeah, but then the food makes people fat, so that's not good. It would have to be something that also like makes you more fit, because N++, I assume follows this trend. You like feel smarter for having played it. For people who haven't played the games, they look very simple at first. When you look at a level, you think, oh yeah, there's just some things. I can get through this. I've been playing video games with things in them for my whole life, no problem. And then no. And then you die. And then when you actually click with it, and I'm kind of describing an entire genre, which in my opinion you guys helped to make. I don't think we would have Super Meat Boy or Jumper, and then following Jumper, Towerfall, and so many other games that people have come on this show to tell me, oh yeah, it was N and N+. Yes. Actually,
one thing.
Yes.
I didn't remember this, but apparently Jumper and N came out like within a month of each other. Because we were just kind of like talking about old platformers and like what inspired us. I was like, yeah, were we inspired by it? Was it inspired by us? And then it turns out no, it like happened at the same time, which we think is like super cool.
It is super cool, but I could be remembering wrong, but gosh darn it, I could have sworn that Matt Thorson, who made Jumper and Towerfall, named you guys as influential on him. Maybe not on the very first one, but moving forward with Jumper and just making games in general, you guys have, from what I've gathered, and has been a pretty big deal to people. Does that feel that way to
awesome.
you?
Awesome.
Not really. I think we had dinner with him at the PlayStation Experience, and I guess he was like too shy to mention that. But the thing is, we've been kind of inspired by like Towerfall and other stuff too. So maybe it's just better not to mention that stuff, like person to person, because then you'd just be talking for hours just about that. So I think he was just glossing over it out of politeness for that reason.
Yeah, I don't know Matt super well, but he seems like he never wants to make anyone feel uncomfortable or bad ever, which then like goes into his game design. He always wants it to be like you're having fun always, like you never feel sad ever in his game. It's always exciting.
It's very, very different from men.
That's like polar opposite.
Wow.
You feel very sad playing this game.
I mean, it's true though that you do feel good in the end if you learn.
Yeah.
Because you know that you had to have learned in order to do what you initially thought was impossible. So that's nice. But it's true that if you aren't able to learn, it can be a bit frustrating. But you can always, if you persevere, you'll always figure it out eventually. Or you can just copy whatever one of your friends did or whatever.
Well, the good thing is that people like Dark Souls. So people seem to like those games.
Yeah.
Sure.
And they're really easy compared to this one.
Well, when I played N and N+, I was having fun the entire time. Even when I hit a roadblock, it wasn't like the fun stopped. I hit a roadblock, and then I like usually laugh or feel shocked. So there's like a rush of some chemical, usually adrenaline. And then I think like, why did that happen? Ooh, I wonder if I can figure this out. So the engagement continues, and therefore the entertainment continues throughout. Like I wouldn't want to play things that made me feel like more bad than good. Your game feel good.
Well, I think what Shawn was trying to say is, if you played N,
yes,
that would get you about 80 or 90% of the way through the game.
Okay.
If you played N+, that might get you like 50 to 60%, because it's like the difficulty. We actually start much shallower. We have like a nice introductory part that tries to, through level design, teach you stuff about the game. Mm-hmm. But then the actual game sort of goes from where N+ started from, but then continues past N+ by like almost twice as, well, not twice as hard. The thing is, it never gets hard. Like there's never more than a few enemies at once, you know? It just gets more cerebral. Like you have to have a better appreciation of the nuances of your momentum, or you have to know that you can juke a certain enemy a certain way, which you've done it, like you've faced these things hundreds of times at this point. So we sort of felt pretty confident in trying to see how far, basically it ties into what Mare was saying, in that we don't want to make another one. So we tried to totally make this one for life, in that if you can keep getting better, there's always a new thing to challenge you. I mean, in the stuff we built, but as well, we're hoping that the user-made levels fulfill that role, like that both, there's sort of two angles on it.
Well, sure. And even if it takes me 10 hours to get to the point where I truly feel stumped and need to like take a breath and not play for a week or something, that's still pretty incredible.
Yes.
In my opinion. And I'm very happy to hear that the difficulty scaling isn't so much about just like make it so you have even more required, I don't know, pixel perfection, and you have to like jump at the exact right time, as opposed to like just knowing the general physics better and knowing the system better and having kind of a global increase in your skill level. I played 1001 Spikes. I don't know if you guys played that.
Yes.
It's very good.
Pretty neat. Yeah, I love that
I only
game.
got a bit of the way into Antarctica, though. And then we started to get busy for real. Haven't really played many games.
Well, in Antarctica, it changes. It like levels out in terms of how hard it is, but it gets hard in a different way in every level. And I really appreciated that, because there was only so high I could go with like dealing with the pixel precision and just like, you have exactly 1 second to run. Like I couldn't make it so that my timing had to be better, my pixel precision had to be better. But to change the way I think in general in a new way was a great way to challenge. And it sounds like
I don't know how true this is, but I think N++ is less about pixel precision than the other end games.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Because we added input buffering, which gives you, now instead of having to hit jumps exactly on the frame, you have like a window of 4 or 5 frames plus or minus. So it makes pulling off, you tend to, there's like fewer gaps where you flub a move. It's a bit easier, which that's actually something that we added because we saw that so many platformers now were doing it. We're like, okay, let's try doing just a bit, because we like, there are different ways of dealing with wall jumping. I better not go off on a tangent about this. Whatever. Anyways.
Do it. That's your job.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's like there are different ways of doing wall jumping, and Ours was one pole of the extreme, and Super Meat Boy is sort of the other, where you're stuck to the wall, you can't get off, and that helps resolve the ambiguity of when you press over and jump, what order you want to do it in. Our way was you just have to be a robot and know to press jump before you press over, and you have to train yourself. There's a rhythm to it. But it was so hard that even we would flub that move. We'd sometimes press over before jumps, and now you have a few frames. So if you press them pretty much simultaneously, now it works, and we think it's really nice because there's something like, we like your freedom. We don't want to lock you there, but we also, Shawn's totally right in that in N and N+, there are a lot of things like that, as well as just round surfaces and the corners of things that were a bit glitchy. Not glitchy exactly, but it tended to cause errors, which is nice, sort of. But
because the thing is, like, when you're so good at the game that in N or N+, you can navigate everything and not screw up because of these little tiny glitchy or, you know, difficult to traverse areas, it feels so good. So we just wanted to give that feeling to more players, you know, like that's what makes it so fun. It's really, really hard. And when you finally successfully pull off this crazy move, or, you know, you get through this really difficult level, it's so satisfying. So, but that said, we don't want to make it too easy because it is a really hard platformer. That's why we made it. That's why we love it. So it's only a few frames easier, but that's enough. Like it makes it so that you can do crazy things, and
it let us make the levels harder because you wouldn't. There wasn't this artificial difficulty of some moves are a bit awkward. Now it's quite smooth in pretty much every case.
So it feels good to move through it, and it's, you know.
So Shawn's totally right. It's not pixely, not pixel perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more than pixel perfect technically, but at an abstract level, it is much more about the higher level. Like, okay, now that you understand how to manipulate your position, try to figure out the riddle of how to move your position from here to there.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Now, I will state this. This is a personal opinion. I have no idea whether it's true or not. And I don't want this to get me in trouble, so I will caveat it with the fact that the game starts off easy enough that any human being can play. Like, it's not you can get through 1,000 levels without having any trouble. And take 1,000 levels will be like a couple hundred hours for the average person, right?
Really?
So, yeah. So you don't need to worry about what I'm about to say to scare you. So you have hundreds of hours before you get to this part. But what I'm going to say is that I truly don't think there's ever been a game shipped on a console this hard. I really think it's the hardest game. It's the hardest game ever shipped as a commercial game. I think so.
Awesome.
Except for those really buggy NES games that were hard just because they were so fun.
No, I was thinking like Ninja Gaiden and Battletoads are probably the two hardest games I've ever played, and I think N++ is harder at its hardest. But at its easiest, it's totally reasonable.
Right.
Yeah,
and if
we
things
definitely
go,
did try to play with the dynamic of having some like playground levels where it's just fun to move and using that to contrast. But so Shawn's right, it gets crazy hard, but it also has a nice wading pool area.
Yeah.
It's like a steep. It's not a steep. It's like a long ramp from wading pool to like beyond the inferno, or I don't know what you want to call it.
The ramp is like 2,000 levels.
Yeah,
long.
it's sort of like it's like you could like I literally think it would be a fun experience to play if you play 5 levels a day. It would take you like, I don't know, a year or something to play through the whole thing, and I think that is like, you'll always be learning something each day. That could be a fun pace to do it at.
Yeah.
yeah, it does sound really
It's
fun.
a big ass game.
Yeah. Spelunky did the daily challenge for a little bit. I think they're still doing it. Any potential of integrating something like that? And
yes,
then,
we have it.
We thought of it first.
It was we literally
Totally did.
we thought of it first, and then we were like, okay, we're still going to do it because it is a good idea, and we will still do it. However, we had to cut it because we were just like, you know what? We need to launch this game. Like, we just hate this feeling of like, we thought we were going to be done so long ago that we're just like, we know everyone's really impatient to get it, and we're all kind of running on fumes and stuff. So it's like finally come together almost perfectly. But in order to do that, we have to prune stuff. But as I mentioned, over the next like probably year, we're going to be doing updates that add in anything that we cut. For instance, we have a pretty awesome challenge mode, which we don't know if it's going to be daily or weekly yet, but I don't want to say anything else about it. But it's like it's an interesting, like, it's definitely we loved it in Spelunky, and so that inspired us to like try to do something that worked better with the game, sort of thing.
Awesome. Yeah, I look forward to it, whatever you come up with. How many of the levels would you say there's more than one way to get through them? Because there are,
360.
Yeah.
Almost. There's
Pretty much all of them.
yeah, we try to make sure that, I mean, there's two different kinds of precision, right? There's timing precision, and then there's where you are like dodging stuff precision. So if you have timing and dodging precision, then your position is completely determined, right? And you have to follow a set path. Because the path is fixed, the position is fixed, and the timing is fixed. You have no leeway. We try to make levels where the position is fixed, but you can take your own time, or the timing is fixed, but you can choose your own positions.
okay.
They're sort of, it gives you a lot more freedom to improvise, but it's not like improvise like on purpose. It's like if you make a mistake, it's not one of those, like, there are a lot of hard platformers that are like this really awesome extreme where it's sort of like Guitar Hero, you know, where it's like you have to hit the inputs, and if you miss, you die. We just try to be more open and like give some branching and give a lot of space and time so that you can play around a bit more, because it's so hard that you're going to make a mistake, and it's nice if you make a mistake to have sort of a 50% chance of, if you're good enough and you catch it, recovering instead of just immediately dying because you didn't hit that input on the right frame. It's like, that's
It's not Paizo Mario.
yeah, it's not. It definitely goes there. There's certain like individual levels we've made that toy with that sort of idea, but like literally, it's like less than 1% of the levels, I would say, are really constrained, and most of them are like, they're designed so that if you're not good and you're still learning, you can just stop after every jump and take a breather and then proceed. And then once you get really good, you can just fly through without any pauses. So
Yeah, because we've noticed that, I mean, one thing about N plus and N++ is that there are replays for every level. So you can watch people's, sorry, Amit's here. You can watch people's replays in the high score table. So, like, we've noticed over the years that people have different styles of play, and like some people like are better at different enemies, better at beating different enemies or evading different enemies than others, and it's just there's a performative aspect that's really cool about N++. I'll just say N++, but all of them. So we definitely want to support that. We want to give people different opportunities to play the levels the way they want, because it's just so rewarding. Like, it's so cool to see 20 different replays, and each person takes a completely different path through the level according to their skills or what they like to do. It's
rewarding for us, but
Yeah.
it's also rewarding as a player to sort of see a level, have a theory about, I wonder if I could do this, and then try it, and it works. Or it doesn't work, but you know it could work next time when you solve that one kink in your strategy.
Yeah.
Like, it's, yeah, I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. The Guitar Hero metaphor, I think, is perfect in that there's a certain gratification in mastering just the muscle memory and the timing of hitting your notes or getting your jumps or dodging your enemies or what have you. But there's not as much of a surprise to it. After you have just mastered playing the piece or playing the level, you don't think that there's much left to potentially be discovered or anything that could happen on the fly in improvisation that would both show you something about yourself and also express something about yourself. So to leave that open for, and I think Shawn and I might have talked about this in terms of Dyad a heck of a long time ago, because if I remember correctly, Shawn, you didn't want Dyad to be a rhythm game because there's not surprises there. It's just playing the notes. You wanted people to have an open, organic experience with what you were making.
Yes.
I did that? I said that right?
Yes, I don't have any context from what you were talking about before, because my friend was throwing rocks at the window and I needed to go get them.
Oh, it's not like Guitar Hero. There's like a playful improv element. Wait, I just want to point out that I should have prepared for this, because I saw your interview with Shawn like a couple years ago. I think when we got in touch about doing this, that finally the game's done, we've done it. But and I watched it and I was like, this is the best interview I've ever seen with. I think I tweeted at you when I saw. Anyways, and I was writing down, because you would say things. You guys would talk about stuff that ended up being exactly what N++ is.
Oh, really?
Like in terms of what is good about games in general, but I didn't write, I mean, I failed to remember until just now. But basically, whatever wavelength you guys are on, I think that we're all kind of on. So
It does
Whatever
feel
we said last time is exactly what this game is.
End interview. Just go
Yeah.
watch that episode.
Yeah, go watch
Jesus,
that
you
and
guys.
then play this game. I don't really remember what that was.
Me neither.
I was drinking then
Yes.
and now, evidently. So.
Now, to dial back a little bit, N+, what inspired you to make that? And what do you think it was about whatever that was that's kept you inspired to keep making it for this many years?
I think so let's start with the second one.
Sure.
Do you want to name that?
Oh yeah, what's kept us inspired? Do you want to handle the first one, Mare?
Okay.
I don't have a good one for that.
I didn't have anything to do with those games, so I'm not going to talk.
I know. Sorry.
You can drink stoically.
Yeah.
I will be drinking, and I will be stoic.
All right.
But what's kept us involved is like we sort of inadvertently came to a really great discovery, which is that if you make your game simple enough and you make the tools fun and easy enough, that making levels and trying out ideas is just like sitting down at a piano and going do, and then learning in that way just through play and experimentation and cause and effect. And so it's definitely been like, when we started, we were worried we had hit a wall in terms of, do we have anything new to add? Like, do we have any new ideas? Is this just going to be like the same as N+ was? But we definitely, I think, fixed all of those concerns because we kept learning a lot, and the new stuff that we added sort of is a lot of that. Like, it challenged us and it changed what we could do. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It is the third game in a series, and third games are often cursed, as far as I can tell, usually in AAA. But
Thanks, asshole.
I didn't know that.
not always.
No. It's sort of like it's like, I think it's like well, let me just say that from a certain point of view, Super Mario World was the third game. Because Super Mario 2 is, it was just basically the same as Mario 1 in Japan, or just not even a Mario game, really. So
Lost Levels was Mario 2 in Japan.
yeah, that's what I mean. But that's pretty much Mario 1, right? It's not. They didn't change the.
No, Mario 3 is Mario 3.
But it's like the second iteration on the engine.
In terms of design,
Yeah, exactly. See,
1 and 2 were designed the same way. Just they added a
Yeah.
poison mushroom and made it harder. Yeah.
But anyways, not that we necessarily pulled it off that well, but I just wanted to disprove your word for sure curse. There's like a slight outside chance.
Well, I will say how we are cursed, and that's Metal Gear Solid 3 has the most absurd control scheme ever designed in video games, and our menus are about that hard to navigate. They require...
I don't believe that. Your menus are hard to navigate?
We use L3 and R3, okay, for menus.
I think we use every button. The game itself only uses 3 buttons, left, right, and jump. So we were like, it's really a waste to have all these buttons and we're not doing anything with them.
Oh, we did something with them.
So we were like, I know, let's make this crazy menu system. But it's very fast to use once you've learned, because there's all kinds of fun shortcuts. But,
Huh. Yeah,
the menus are insane. I would estimate that in order to make it feel, like I said earlier, like everything feels instant and there's no delay ever, like you can search through hundreds of thousands of levels instantly and scroll through them instantly. All of that stuff, I would estimate, and plus the menus, which are related, is probably 90% of all the code in the game.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's
complicated.
And
It's really complicated.
So
and also another fun fact, when people who were comparing this game to N+, I remember when N+ came out, it was like 25 megabytes or something like that. 13 megabytes.
And 14. We got complaints.
And people bitched about it being so small. Like, why is this game so small?
It can't be any good because it's 14. Yeah.
Right. So if that's your concern back at N+, let me tell you, this thing is almost 5 gigabytes. So you ain't got nothing to worry about now.
But it's cool because it has a soundtrack finally.
Yes.
Well, I mean, N+ did have a soundtrack.
It does have 6 hours of music.
But this is
Yes,
much bigger.
6 hours of music. Oh, wait, we should get back to what inspired us to make N in the first place.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which Steve Mare was preparing an answer for.
Well,
No?
to be totally honest, I couldn't remember the question at the time, but now I'm preparing an answer. And so what inspired us to make N in the first place? was basically we started out just kind of combining little experiments. We were just playing around with a bunch of different things that we found interesting. So various ways of doing collision detection, ragdoll simulation, all these other little things that we sort of combined into one project. Things that didn't make the cut, for example, were our drunk person slipping around on roller skates, slipping on banana peel simulator. So we just cut that. Also, we were trying to make a stealth game at the time. So, and it kind of changed a lot because we realized that it was so much more fun to run around at top speed and do all these crazy things than to sneak around and, you know. Anyway, so fast-paced, way more fun. So we were just kind of playing around with things, and that's kind of how N came to be.
And freeware.
And freeware, yeah. Like we were playing a lot of freeware games. So there were a lot of things that we really loved, like Super Bubble Blob and what's that?
Soldat.
Oh, Zone Runner, Soldat, yeah.
Zone Runner, Fujiwara.
Fujiwara. So
If you play the web version, there are links to games that inspired us, and we basically just stole individual pieces. Like Super Bubble Blob had wall jumping and sliding. It didn't feel like it doesn't end. But it's the idea we had not seen, not since the NES did people really do wall jumping and sliding.
Yeah.
But Super Bubble Blob used it in a puzzly way, and that's an amazing game. Like it sounds like a silly game. It's made in Click and Play by K&P Master, Click and Play Master, and it's amazing. It's just a level. It's an amazing game. Super Bubble Blob.
Yeah.
I remember that.
But basically, we just took little bits and pieces and of ideas of stuff that we liked some aspect of. Like there's Fujiwara is a Japanese freeware game where you're really zoomed out, so you can see a lot of area.
Right.
And we were like, hey, that maps well with the fact that in Flash you can't change many pixels per frame or it gets really slow. At the time, it was very slow. So
still is.
Yeah, it still is very slow.
But it ain't changed.
So it was like a mashup of stuff.
Yeah, stuff that we liked, and then a couple of ideas that we had, and then plus basically what happened was this guy, Ross Erickson, who worked at Microsoft at the time, we heard from friends who were also Canadian video game developers, Jamie Cheng from Clay, that he brought up in a meeting they were doing a greenlight meeting for one of their games, I think Eats, at Microsoft, and Ross Erickson, who was working in the Xbox Live arcade games division, said hey, do you guys know these people from Meta? They made N. Have you played this game N? I think they're from Canada also. So and Jamie actually did know us. We did know him, so that was super weird. But it was basically just that someone at Microsoft liked our game and got in touch with us eventually, and we thought about it, and there were things that we wanted to do. Like we kind of wanted to make more levels, and we kind of wanted to keep iterating on this formula and see what we could do with it. And at the time, we were reluctant to add things like multiplayer, but it was mandated, so we worked with it. But actually, it was a great thing, because co-op was my favorite part of N+, and that's something that we brought into N++ as well, because we loved it so much. So.
Oh, cool.
It's way better now, though, because once we saw how good it was in N+, we could design all the new stuff designed around it being fun in co-op, sort of as a way of interacting indirectly.
Yeah.
We also added race, which is just I guess that was in N+
There's
too.
It's like we did it in N+, but we didn't have any time. It wasn't really thought out. This time we made it really fun.
Yeah, we thought about every part of it. We tried to make it, especially for race, we tried to make the rules a lot more interesting and give you strategic opportunities.
You can play it like a fun party game where you just have fun, like in N+. But if you want to get competitive, we really,
do that.
It's really really good.
It's so good.
It's actually really good.
That's my favorite mode in N++.
Yeah, it's weird. It kind of takes the game, the game's all about single player, but really at a certain level, that just becomes training for race, because then you can take the skills you've learned by beating the single player stuff and I think the main thing we have to mention is, in race you're just rushing to get to the exit, but when you get to the exit you turn into one of those rockets, only you control it with left and right to steer it like a car, and it's actually harder to control than the Ninja. It skids just like the Ninja, but it's amazing when you finally get good enough with it. You can kill someone with your rocket, and it's actually really we wanted to provide a way for there to be dramatic reversals without doing too much rubber banding. And so it turns out that it's the perfect thing, because if you kill your opponent, they get no points, and you've already hit the exit, so you've gained your points. So it's kind of like you get double points relative to them.
I just wanted to encourage violence amongst friends, and I think we've done a very good job of that.
Yes, co-op is maybe better than race for that, even though it's supposed to be cooperative.
We call it friendship ending co-op.
Yes. Maybe we should have a friendship testing. It sounds a bit less. It sounds more like a fun challenge, you know?
Well, some people want to end friendships, and it's awkward.
Well, this is a great way.
And is the rocket
People are always
dynamic?
proposing via games. You could sort of make a really hard level and give it to your friend and be like, let's play this together, and then we won't talk ever. And this is it. This is the end. And you could call the level the end of our friendship.
Do we have a level like that?
No.
I'll get on that.
Okay, don't use that name.
Is the rocket dynamic in single player too, or is that only in race?
Just in race, because like there's no one to kill in single player.
Right,
Although
right,
you're right, if it was more of an adventure game, that would be a pretty fun sort of like bat form, like from Castlevania or whatever.
I don't know.
But I don't think we're going to be doing, you know, any like this is the end of the line. But good idea.
No, I didn't mean to propose it as. I actually prefer it when co-op or two-player multiplayer has something to it that you don't see anywhere else, because it really does make you feel like you. Yeah.
We sorry for interrupting.
No,
we tried to make it. Sometimes it's cheap if there's stuff that's just there in those modes. So there are rules that are different. Like in co-op, only one of you has to hit the exit. You don't both have to get there, whatever. But it uses the same set of things. We just tried to make them so that they have alternate uses in co-op and race. Like the other players add a different context that makes it interactive. I'm not explaining this.
No, makes sense to me, absolutely. And one autobiographical question before I forget. Well, actually two. N+ did end up on the DS. I was curious about how that happened, and also wanted to know how, like, you guys have, like, maybe there's been a lot more games I don't know of that you've put out, but it doesn't seem like you've made like your billions off of just N and N+. Your billions. So there must be other. And were you even making, because N was free and N was a huge hit, at least it seemed to be.
Yes. We actually, this is great. I can answer all these questions in one.
Awesome. Please do.
So we weren't making anything on N because it was free, and when we started making N+ for Xbox, it took about 9 months longer than we thought, because there were some problems with the contract and blah blah blah. And so we basically ran out of money halfway through, and we were like, shit, we need money to finish this. What can we do? And so the solution was, without having to actually do anything, because we're busy, like at this point, we had to make 1,000 levels in 3 months. So we were like crazy busy. So we thought, okay, let's license the rights to Atari for some tens of thousands of dollars that will carry us past the end of N+.
To make the handheld.
To make DS and PSP. And let's use an Etobicoke developer that's like the suburb of Toronto. Anyways, a Toronto developer so we can go in and talk with them. But it didn't end up, they just didn't make it feel right. They wouldn't listen to us.
Aww.
We learned the important lesson of if you don't pay people, then they don't listen to you.
Yeah.
Atari
was paying them though.
Okay, dicks. How about dicks? If you don't
being paid.
Dickish.
What?
But like Mare said, Atari was paying them, but it doesn't sound like Atari was paying them to listen to you. Like
I think the project was fundamentally screwed, because what ended up happening, the plan was they would make the levels, but we would approve them to make sure that, because we knew that this game is very dependent on good level design, and we were only approving 1 out of 100 levels. It was taking us longer to go through the levels than to just make good levels from scratch. So we actually did that, because otherwise it was a big mess. So that's why we had this crazy task of 1,000 levels in 3 months, because the people making it, we found it in hindsight, it wasn't the fault of the level designers. Out of a project, they had more than $500,000, and they had allocated, I think, $25,000 to level design, and they were paying people $20 per level or something like that. Like they were doing like level sweatshops or something. Where it was just like, no, that's why these aren't good. It's because people aren't spending time to make them good. Because you're like, it was just really dumb. I don't know. There were a lot of good people there, but I feel like maybe the
Well, I
management
have
was-
nothing to do with this,
Yeah.
so I'm going to chime in.
All right.
I'm going to say the vast majority of people making video games, levels, and programming video games are grossly incompetent.
Wow.
And
That's fair.
Yeah.
I will
agree.
stand by that statement. And if anybody can prove me wrong, I would like to see it. Because
Well,
from what I can tell,
Shawn,
most people are
this
incompetent.
is one of those moments where this is a bit like a supermodel saying, I think people should get in better shape. Because
Well, you know
for
what?
you, freaking Shawn McGrath, guy who codes graphics out of, zeros and ones somehow and makes all the 2,000 levels, you're pretty darn good at this, Shawn. It's gonna
No,
be
I'm
hard
not. No, the thing is, no. I straight up, honestly, I sacrifice my health and well-being in
Yeah.
order to do it. I don't
Right.
sleep.
Oh,
I have
don't
no
mean to
social
imply
life.
that it comes naturally to
No,
you.
I know, but this is my point, though. I'm sacrificing a lot in order to pretend that I'm competent at it, and I just don't think people are necessarily as willing to sacrifice their well-being as I am, maybe.
And I agree, but maybe we're going to have a different idea about why that is. I think you are really super smart. So I can say that as a person who's somewhat aware of what other people are like and if they're smart or not. And
thank
you're
you.
smart enough to know how smart you wish you were and are not yet. So you
Bingo.
look at yourself and are like, Jesus Christ, why do I suck at this, this, and this? I'm only like making this 2,000 level long video game. Why can't
I
I
didn't make any of the levels. I'm responsible for exactly 0.
coding it? Sorry.
He inspired at least a couple levels, and we haven't. You showed me that evil level that you made for testing.
Yeah.
We haven't used that, but we're going to. So he sort of will have made one by the end of it.
I'll make some in the editor.
Yes.
I made the editor. So basically every level that anyone ever makes is because of me.
Yeah, you co-created every.
Sure.
You coded the darn thing. So there you have it.
Okay,
But
so
yeah,
you're
it's-
God. Do you want to rock paper scissors for who is Jesus and who's the Holy Spirit?
I don't actually know
Sean
who
was just
any of
saying he
these
was
people are.
editor God. No, okay.
But it happens a lot. I talk to really committed, intelligent, but also intelligent enough to know how smart they wish they were developers, and they're like, how come people are doing such a bad job around me? It can be really frustrating for them to see. But on the other hand, actually just last week, David Hellman, who did the art for Braid and drew this comic that was inspired solely by how much David and the writer of the comic, Tevis Thompson, disliked the most recent Legend of Zelda game for home consoles. They disliked it so much that they made a comic book about what they wish it would have been. And it's like a really awesome comic book. So do you guys ever
Second
get...
best?
Yeah, it's very good. Do you ever get inspired by playing a game that you wish had been better, and then that'll make you think? Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Happens?
For sure.
Totally.
Yeah,
That's
every
like-
single game I play, I'm like, holy shit, this is like almost really, really good. Like if they just
Got rid of the garbage.
if they just got rid of all the fucking bullshit in here and actually like distilled it to what was actually amazing about it and just did that, it would be incredible. And that's what actually got me attracted to this project to begin with, is that N is everything that's really good about platformers. And I hate platformers, by the way, because they're all shit. But N is everything that's really good about platformers with none of the shit. It's like there's no scrolling. Perfect. Don't scroll, because as soon as you scroll, I can't tell what's going on everywhere else, and I'm limited in terms of the puzzle design, and I'm limited in terms of what I can and can't do, because I can't make decisions based off of the entire world state, right? Get rid of scrolling in platformers. Any platformer that has scrolling, don't do that.
We had to for N+, I just want to say, because we had to support, low def 4.3, but sorry about that. We play Zoom def.
You wouldn't have that. There's pros and cons to everything, of course. Con to scrolling, like Sean's saying, is it disorients the player a little bit, and it makes it so you're not dealing with a language that's staying in one place. It's like your words.
No, it's like when you play N. I'm not even talking about N++. When you play N,
Yeah.
you can treat the whole level as a machine, right? The whole level is this machine with these interacting parts that when you do something, the parts respond to you in a very binary way, right? You run into the line of sight of something like a chain gun and it starts shooting at you, right? Like it's very predictable. As soon as you add scrolling, you're looking into like a window of the world, and you have no idea about the capabilities of the machine to which you're fighting. And got rid of all that bullshit and was just like, here's the entire machine. Here's where you have to go. Figure it out.
Yeah.
And I really, really like that. And I think that all platformers should do. But after this game, I sort of think there's no reason for
our marketing line is, does the world need another platformer? Not after this one.
Oh, really? Kind of true. I really think so.
Yeah, absolutely. The pro to scrolling levels is it gives players a feeling like, oh, I'm going somewhere, I'm doing a thing. Like the whole adventure side of gaming as opposed to just the problem-solving side. But when it comes to problem-solving junkies, which, guess what, you guys? You decided to solve the problem of making a video game.
I think we're all interested in more exploring type things. Like you liked Secret of Mana or whatever, right?
I fucking love that game.
Yeah, so it's like we're interested in lots of stuff, but this one just happened to be. I mean, we're perfectionists. Everyone's a perfectionist, and you can see the game is about learning and trying to be better, and sort of it's about being a perfectionist. So,
but in terms of your original, or in terms of your point about adventureness, I totally agree that you can do that in platformers. But I have not seen a game that comes anywhere close to Super Mario World in terms of that. Like Super Mario World, adventure and exploring, there is just nothing better, at least in platformers. I mean, other than Demon Souls and Dark Souls and perhaps Bloodborne, there's nothing better in terms of just pure exploration of both space and mechanics, like the way Super Mario World did, right? Yeah. So, like, having the exploring mechanic of platformers is great, but do something better than Super Mario World, which, as far as I'm concerned, no one has ever done. And that was, like 15, 20 years ago.
I know, that's what I like. I feel like that's the only reason I want to make platformers is because I'm pissed off that they never made Mario 5. Or, like, they made Yoshi or whatever, but it's like, that's not the next one in the lineage. And then when they came back, like, the new ones have nothing to do with that lineage. You know, the new ones are not.
If you go back and you read Miyamoto interviews from the 80s and 90s, and you like contextualize those with what the Mario games are now, he must be a very sad man. Because everything that he talks about, he's dead on about everything he's ever said between 1985 and 2000 is dead on. And the games in which Nintendo was making are not that. They're the antithesis.
I don't know. There's some things, like, I haven't played Splatoon, but there's some ideas that
I haven't played it yet. So I'm not counting that. I'm talking about the new Zelda games. I'm talking about new Mario's. I mean, I really like Mario Galaxy, but imagine they got rid of the Storio in Mario Galaxy, got rid of the voice in Mario Galaxy, and got rid of the stupid waggle shit where you're collecting fucking stars through fucking space. If you got rid of all that shit, that game would be amazing. But instead, 2/3
you could just make that game after this one.
I don't want to do that. That's Nintendo's job. It's Nintendo's job to make good Mario games, not mine.
It was one of the things that Miyamoto, I'd have to go back and find the interviews. Did he say, like, he didn't want voice in his platformers and stuff like that?
He didn't want story, and he wanted to convey progression through mechanics.
Right.
Which Mario used to do. Used to do very well.
Indeed.
Like, Mario World is one of my favorite, if not, like, the top 5 games for me of all time, Super Mario World.
Sure. Which goes back to a quick point I was making about how the third game is often cursed. But it wasn't in the case of Mario World. It wasn't in the case of Metal Gear Solid either, I don't think. It's not cursed in the instances where the developers are still inspired. But it's so often that, and this almost happened with you guys, it sounds like, but not quite. The first game, it was like, we can make a game, and we have an idea. And, like, the idea is given birth, but it doesn't get to, like, fully get to full strength. It doesn't build its legs yet because it's just the fact that you even made it is a miracle. And then with N+, you got to, like, refine so many things. And then oftentimes with the third entry, it's like we did everything we wanted to do with the second one, and now we just kind of have to make another one because the second one's popular.
You've uncovered our secret strategy, which is that we're just slightly inept. So when we made N+, by the time we were done N+, we knew things that would have made it better, but it was too late at that point because the game was done. And in the years after that, we continued to learn stuff, and then we're like, with every year, we just felt worse about that being the last word, because we feel like, I don't know, like we felt anyways like there was more to express there, but now I think everyone feels like we've managed, because the whole point was like do it all, get it all figured out, and shut down and kind of complete the idea.
Sure.
So I had nothing to do with Enter N+, and without risk of insulting present company, I thought N+ was a regression over N.
Really?
I thought N.
Developing for consoles is harder.
It's way harder.
We never factored that in for some reason.
I'm just stating that in my personal opinion, I thought N+ was a regression over N.
Huh.
And it was one of my goals to make sure that that wasn't the case this time. That this is a superior game to both. And it is vastly superior to both.
And I liked them both, personally. But I liked both Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2. But it was because Metal Gear 2 turned off so many people, I think, in part why Kojima was like, all right, Metal Gear 3 has to completely rock it. It has to have Snake back. It has to, have allusions to all this other stuff it can't do. So it was the pain he felt over Metal Gear Solid 2 that made Metal Gear Solid 3 so awesome. Maybe that's why N++ is so awesome.
It's definitely part of it. Like, we recognize, too, that there were a lot of ththings that could have been done a lot better in N+, that we are trying to fix now, like race, like co-op, like level sharing. There wasn't really level sharing in N+, and so we're actually trying to make that happen this time. Graphics technology.
We couldn't do this vector thing until, like, when we started, essentially.
Exactly.
But we always wanted to, like, from N, we love, like, that's why we love Flash. It has this beautiful anti-alias line right
Yeah, it's smooth.
N++ is just better.
Huh. And what was it that allowed you to do the new the vector technology? Is it the PS4?
Well,
is it like
yeah, it's just modern GPUs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really, really fast.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Absolutely.
Like we throw, I don't know, I throw a few 100,000, maybe over 1 million triangles at the GPU and compute subpixel anti-aliasing to, I guess, 1/4 billion decimal places, and it computes it quickly,
Yeah.
which is very nice. You couldn't do that before.
We get a lot of criticism that, this N++ should have been on the Atari.
Oh, it's like a phone game.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
a
good
mobile
luck
game.
running that on anything else.
But it's impossible. Like, it's just that maybe the graphics look simple, but they're actually really not.
Yeah, people really, like, I guess it's just like games don't have a very good history of being nice and abstract. Like, they keep getting, they keep going towards, like, movies. But if you even look backwards movie-wise, people were a lot more lyrical and abstract than they are typically now. And anyways, I forget what I was trying to say. But
oh no, not at all.
like it's like we really like. It's not that we don't like pixels and alias. Like Cactus's alias grungy rotated pixel look is really great. Like there's but it's the idea that you have to have a style, and the style should be informed by what the technology is, what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And N++, basically, N++ uses a sizable chunk of the PS4's processing power. At points, it runs at 100% usage, all 8 cores, 100% GPU usage, and almost hits about 95% of the theoretical maximum bandwidth of the RAM usage on the PS4.
Seriously.
Whoa.
Because it doesn't look like that.
Well,
but when you play it, like, it doesn't look like that in screenshots. But when you play it and you see, like, super fine detail subpixel rendering on absolutely everything, it feels like something else. Like, it feels proper.
It's next gen.
It is. It's next gen. I'm gonna do a talk, or
next gen.
I'm gonna do a talk, or I'm gonna release a paper, or I'm gonna release the rendering engine as freeware or something like that, as into the public domain.
How about a manifesto?
A manifesto.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna call it.
Definitely.
I'm gonna call it next gen stick figure technology, because there's some next gen shit going on in this stick figure technology.
Could it have run on the PS3? You think?
At 60 frames per second at 1080, absolutely not.
Wow.
At 30 frames per second at 720, yes. I don't know. The thing is that the PS3 has really fast vector processing units with really large amounts of cache that can rip through basically mathematical functions extremely quickly. So maybe. The Xbox, certainly not. The Xbox, the 360, never, no way. But the PS3 is actually uniquely suited for exactly what we were doing. So maybe it could, but I sort of would have to work really, really, really hard. I don't want to do that. So,
so if everyone writes in to request a PS3 version, you're creating Shawn's tears, is basically.
I don't think it could have. No, I don't think so.
And is that is it not going to be on Steam? Is it a PS4 exclusive as of right now?
Basically, yeah, we're. So you mentioned earlier that N was freeware, and where do we get our billions of dollars? The thing is, we don't have any. We depend on government grants, basically, and N++ is a pub fund title, so that's part of the reason why we get to make it at all, because Sony has been helpful. But yeah, if N++ on PS4 sells well enough, we hope that we can afford to bring it to Steam. We really want to, because we want lots of people to be able to play it. Like, we want everybody to be able to try N++ in some form.
Because it's like the definitive one.
Yeah,
this is canon.
But we just don't have the resources.
One of my problems with bringing it to Steam is that it's stick figures, right? It doesn't look visually impressive. But when I'm like, hey, you need like a Haswell with 8 gigs of RAM and GeForce 680 to run it, people are going to be like, why the fuck do you need that for stick figures, right? But like, those stick figures are really good.
So smooth.
They're really smooth. They're like as 64-bit numbers can be.
Yeah, and it looks it.
It's as smooth as butter if butter ran at 1080p 60 hertz. That's the agreed upon marketing slogan.
I have just found out about this now, but we'll go with that.
Well, I think of it almost like thread count on sheets. Like, if you look at a sheet, you'll be like, well, who cares? You know, why is that thing so expensive? Then when you get that high thread count sheet and you like get in there,
no,
you know it when you feel it, basically.
I think that my theory about what's going on with the graphics is slightly different than Shawn's, but I think that it's pretty much literally like most games use 1 thread count per pixel, and we're using 256 about. Shawn thinks we're using like 2 million, but I think it's at least
4 billion. Let's get correct here.
I think it's at least 256, which is a big enough step from 1 that I think that that's impressive enough that we don't need to stretch the numbers.
Well, as the one who wrote it, I'm going to go ahead and say 4 billion.
You can't really argue.
Well, I wonder, I don't know if you've heard about the company James Milkey is working for now. James Milkey had been at Q Games and Q Entertainment, Shinra Technologies. Yeah, they will make it so it doesn't matter, from what I've heard anyway, it doesn't matter how powerful your computer is, because they will stream it from their supercomputers. And I think
all right, do you want me to get into a rant here?
Rant time? That's your job. Yeah.
I like James Milkey. James Milkey is a super good dude, and I can't wait to go hang out with that guy at the first available opportunity. But let's talk about the speed of light for a second. And the speed of light is this really sad reality that we all live with. And I'll quote John Carmack circa 1997, and he said, quote, "The speed of light sucks."
He's quoting Carmack.
Yeah. So the speed of light sucks. And the problem with the speed of light is that it is as far as we as human beings can tell, a universal constant. We can't break it. So unless you're streaming something from a close distance, you're going to have latency, right? And electrons move nowhere near the speed of light. Electrons move at half the speed of light, or a tenth of the speed of light even, right? Like, it's a sizable fraction of the speed of light, but it's nowhere close to the speed of light. So you're transferring a large chunk of data, no matter how good your compression is. You're transferring some amount of data across some physical medium nowhere near the speed of light. You're going to have perceptible lag. And that's bullshit. I find most TVs, like LCD TVs, it took me a very long time to switch I used to use CRT monitors. Even for the beginning of development of Diet, I used CRT monitors because they had the lag. And it took a long time before companies were able to make LCD monitors that had low enough latency for me to be able to even perceive it, right? Like, I could see LCD latency on anything made older than 5 years ago, right? It was really, really annoying to me. So I hate lag a lot. So I'm very skeptical of these streaming graphics technologies because there is a physical distance. No matter how, unless if you're in San Francisco and your servers are in San Francisco and you have no, you have a very short distance between that, the speed of flight doesn't really matter, right?
Or if the game is designed to render, like Tag Pro. I don't know if you played Tag Pro.
I have played Tag Pro.
It's like you can hide the latency if it's designed to render. But sorry, I just want to interject and say what Shawn was saying before about the menus being the best menus in the world. I'm pretty sure he must have at some point.
I think he did say that.
Okay.
It's
because of what he's saying now.
Yeah.
It's because if you care about interaction, then you care about latency between when you press a button and when something happens. And he made the menu so that if you can press the button 60 times in a second, you will do 60 actions in the menu. So you can navigate without looking, because if you press the button, something happens. And with streaming stuff, you will never get that experience because there's the amount of latency can't be less than like
the speed of light times your distance. It just it flat out can't.
I was hoping to break it down into something like more relatable, like if it's like 1 or 2 frames at 60 hertz, that's horrible.
Yeah, we use I render directly, like in video games, you render. How rendering technology works in video games generally, and this has been the case since the 80s, is you render to a back buffer, and then when your whole rendering is done, you flip it, and then that's what you see, right? Well, I don't do any of that shit. I render directly to the front buffer, and I figure out when the vertical line is not going to hit that point, and then I render your thing. So there's not even one hertz or like one frame of lag. There's not one frame of lag in this game. There's less than a frame of lag, unless you're right at the very, very bottom, in which case there's 1 frame.
Like intrinsically, there's always at least 1 frame because you have to.
It's between 0 and 1.
There's not 1 frame extra. It's the theoretical minimum of lag that you can get.
Yes, it is as responsive as you could possibly get. Like, do you remember when? So when CRT sort of died and Guitar Hero was really popular, they started adding that synchronization thing. And there was like, TVs were so fucking garbage back then that you actually had like 100 milliseconds of lag between when the signal went to the TV and then when the TV actually displayed it, right? And then video games in general, they had like, if they were running at 30 frames per second, there was 33 milliseconds of lag. And then if they were double buffering or triple buffering because they couldn't render things fast enough or whatever, there could be up to like 66 or even 100 milliseconds of lag on top of your TV lag, right? And plus ain't got none of that shit. There's 0 lag.
And you're going to need it. You're going to need all that extra time.
But you put in a softness for timings, a little bit more. You gave some leeway. So
right,
maybe
it should be much easier. If you have a good TV, it should be much easier to play. But anyway, so that's why I'm not convinced on streaming technology, at least for games like N. I don't think it will work. That's another reason there's no online multiplayer. Why don't you have online multiplayer? Because there's lag. There's nothing you can do, even with local prediction. There's absolutely nothing you can do.
It's literally, if you had to design a game that is impossible to make good networks, it's pretty much it, right? Because there's no way of hiding the latency at all. You feel it immediately.
Yep, and it makes you fail. And that's so frustrating. And you can't, this game is already frustrating enough that little bit of lag makes it like rage-inducing and horrible. And it just makes it completely
and also, if you're playing with someone in real life, you can punch them if they're a jerk. And since you can be such a jerk in both co-op and race, you need that kind of safety mechanism, or else people might get seriously angry.
Yeah.
And it'll hopefully encourage people to, hang out in person. Not that there's anything wrong with hanging out online, but more stuff can happen in person than not. And I hope people take that risk. And before I forget this idea, and I want it to be a big secret. And of course, I'm being totally, can't even believe how arrogant I am by even giving you guys video game ideas. Like, you need them for me. But your menus sound so awesome, and it sounds like there's such a learning curve for how quickly you can navigate the menu. I want there to be, like, secret rewards for, like, how quickly did you get into this game from this place? Just like a little, good job, guys.
There sort of is, because we keep track of exactly how many milliseconds you spent in the menus versus in the game. So you could be, so theoretically, if you 100% the game, you'll have a record of how much of that time was spent in the menus. So that should be something.
It is something.
I don't know. There's something.
But like we were saying
but
before,
there's at least one secret in the menus, but that's all that we will say about it.
Oh, really?
But you should learn how to use the menus. Because the lesson everyone should learn.
And it goes back to what
they're
you were
not as hard as Shawn thinks.
Well, it sounds like there's a vast potential.
Well, it's exactly like in the game
master
itself.
the
Exactly.
game itself,
It's-
exactly.
Yeah, where it's like it's enticing, and you just use it more and more, and you learn, and then it doesn't. You don't really feel so much how complicated it is.
Sure.
We hope.
My thought
But
is
also
similar-
you're determined. You're determined to learn in the game, and that gives you a certain tenacity in the menus themselves. It's more cohesive.
My thought process, if a menu inspires a certain kind of thinking, or if the game inspires a certain kind of thinking, I end up applying that thinking to different parts of the game, whether I want to or not. Like if a game has a rhythmic sense to one part of it, then when I'm playing the platformer part, I'll just like duck to the music just because I'm like in the mood for rhythm. And if I'm in the mood for precision and problem solving, skill building in the game, I'll probably apply that to the menu. But if people know that that's something you knew they would do, and I guess this is my worry about your game, when you talk about what the critics are saying, each time it sounds to me like what the critics, even if it's not a game blog or just some random comment you get from someone who played it, they're like not getting how much you intended and cared about, and like they're looking for surface level signs that, oh, this game, they must have really cared about this game because it's got 32-bit graphics or something, and they did a big cell shading on it or something. Cell shaded games are the ones people care about. But you cared about this game so much, and if anything, it speaks to your humility that you didn't want to necessarily like peacock with how much you cared about it. You wanted the game to speak for itself. But I think it sounds like you're hoping that people will understand the language of the game you made well enough that they wouldn't need for you to like come on with the video game equivalent of like a pickup line, or like running around shirtless and flexing your muscles to draw crowds. You're hoping the content of the game would speak for itself. At least that's how it looks to me.
This time we're kind of cheating, because you're right. Like we maybe inadvertently were a bit I don't know, but we failed to appreciate that aspect of it in the past.
Yeah.
But this time, just to segue back, I believe Mare mentioned the soundtrack. It's like part of it with the colors and the music. So as Mare mentioned, there's 60 color schemes. So that's completely, it really changes the feel of the game. And then there's like 6 hours of very good electronic music that is, it's like a range of moods, but they're all moods that work well with focusing on the game while providing sort of an atmosphere and a texture and like a richness. And we think that, like, even if you just basically suck at the game and want to hear 6 hours of very amazing music, it works on that level. Or if you just want to browse people's high scores and listen to awesome music and watch people do crazy speedrun type stuff, it works for that too. Or if you just want to like make a level and play around with it. But basically what I'm saying is, with the colors of the music are kind of our attempt to, without changing the core of the game, which is like you were saying, kind of reserved and austere, and that it gives it like a nice purity and cleanness, to kind of add layers that cooperated with that, so that we don't have to change that. We just change sort of the framing.
Sure.
Yeah, because we recognize that it's very minimalist. It's very cut back. It's not a game that reaches out to you and engages you as a player or as anything. It's pretty different from what you tend to see. Like even games that have pixel art, the games that do have pixel art these days are really detailed, or there's something that people can grab onto that is missing in N and N+, and especially N++. So we know that people aren't really going to, it's not going to welcome people really. So that's why we tried to add color and more music and just like ways that people can get closer to it, but also hopefully appreciate why we made the decisions to keep it very minimalist, which is so that you can focus on the gameplay and focus on what you need to do. This is a game about what it feels like to play it. So
you get it what you put in.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to give you a lot. You have to put in a lot in order to get something from it. But when you do, it's so satisfying. We just need to kind of tell people that, hey, there's something really awesome here that you're going to love. You just have to make an effort.
Well, I'm hoping the Let's Players help you do that. And it seems like yet another game that it doesn't have like the peacocking I was talking about before. But games these days often don't need that, because all the personality of these popular Let's Players that lobs onto your game while they're showing, like, this is a game that you could have as much fun as I'm having with if you see me actually playing it and see my reactions as it happens. I mean, it's perfect for that, and PS4 has a share button, so it's a ideal console for it. Before I forget about the colors, though, do you control when the color schemes change, the 60 different color schemes?
Yeah.
Yes, but I mean, they'll get unlocked as you play.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It starts with fun locked.
Yes, sorry, they'll get unlocked as you play.
Trademark.
But you also, like, as a player, you get to choose whatever colors you want.
Yeah, you at all times have complete control. You can change the music and the colors however you want them.
That's also a less than 1 frame lag. It takes less than 16 milliseconds to change your color.
Yeah.
So if you want to change your color, it goes as fast as your hand goes.
And is there any way to set it to random?
Yes.
So it surprises you?
By default, it randomly cycles through the ones that you've fun locked, and as you play, every few chunks of levels that you beat, you get a new color. So it's cycling through this list that's growing each time, and I don't know. It's a nice experience. I mean, for sure there are certain color schemes that make it harder to play because they're flashier, and they're fun to use if the level's too easy and you want it to be a bit more exciting.
They're fun in multiplayer, too.
Oh, yeah, in multiplayer. But, like, you might, like, it's set up like a playlist where you can just turn off the ones that you find too distracting. So on a really hard level, you might switch to your favorite color for hard levels because it's like your good luck. It's giving you good luck in the past, maybe because it's easier for you to read. But it's
too, I'd guess.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Like there's again, like the music and the colors and the level design both span what like we think is the widest possible dynamic range that isn't offensive. So it's like there's some music that's so minimal and relaxing that it will calm you down no matter what's happening, and there's some music that's so amped up that even if you're playing a really relaxing level, your like adrenaline will start to flow a bit. And so again, it's sort of like it's letting it like you can sort of pick the whatever you're most comfortable with, because we don't want those things to, we want them to enhance the core of the game, which is playing it. We think that's for sure that's the primary thing that everything is based around. But we realized that in the past, certain elements of the experience that weren't the gameplay elements, they could have been a bit more inviting, as Mare was saying.
Yeah.
So this time we try to make sure that like no matter what your tastes are, as long as you have good tastes, that is, you'll find something that feels like comfortable and relaxing and like lets you play and have fun.
It also takes 16 milliseconds, or less than 16 milliseconds, to choose any of the wide gamut of options.
Right.
Sure. Well, you guys, you are beloved and have been influential to so many other game developers, like I think I mentioned before. And I get the sense that part of it's because, I don't know, just making this up as I go along, but intelligence, awareness, ability to solve problems, ability to be aware of a problem and therefore sort out the pieces in it. It takes a certain sensitivity. Like I've often thought that people who seem really mean are often just really emotionally stupid, to put it bluntly. Okay. And you guys are like the opposite of that with like game design. Like your sensitivity.
Thanks for saying that.
Well,
I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
I think the proof is in the pudding that you have made.
I think what Shawn meant to say was that
No, I meant to say I'm an asshole.
part of like the core of Mare and I's thing is like there's a dialogue between people, and so we just kind of have worked Shawn into that where, you know, it's like you certainly discuss stuff, right? And you have to try to figure out what's good, and if something sucks and it annoys you, you have to at least mention it, if not figure out how to fix it. Because we want something that we're all basically the maximum happiness with,
Right.
so that none of us can ever have to do it again. So we feel like we've done this so perfectly, this sort of thing is like we can move on.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Casey Muratori, who does Handmade Hero, and I highly recommend everybody watch that if you want to make games. Him and Jonathan Blow were having a discussion on Twitter recently, and it was about the difference between being negative and being and having really high standards. And Jonathan Blow is somebody who I think has really high standards, but isn't a negative person. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, so what they were talking about was people who are negative just hate everything. who have really high standards hate everything because they know it can be better and work towards making it better. And I feel like that's how I am. I hate everything. But
I feel like you're negative and you have really high standards. You got the double dose.
Yeah, I got both, right?
I don't see it that way. I hate,
No, I was kidding.
like crystallized anger coming from fear, anxiety, or a sense of being threatened. So like you, Shawn, and Jonathan Blow, you are actually similar to follow on Twitter because like the pain, but you feel pain. Pain can also, of course, trigger anxiety and then anger to follow. You have this sensitivity to when things aren't as good as they could be. And it hurts you, so that means
gives you the splinters. It's like you're rubbing your hand on something. The controller trying to play
splinters. You feel that.
We don't tolerate. None of us will put up with that shit.
Yeah, we don't put up with that shit. But the problem is the amount of pain and suffering that the developers have to
It's like we're taking the splinters off with our bare hand, so you don't have
with my tongue. Like I'm licking the splinters off on behalf of everybody else, and it's horribly painful, but also. Good, because I know that what I'm putting out is the very, very best that I think I could put out. And I think with really ridiculously high standards that I have, it's the best that probably anybody could put out, unless they thought about things in a different way, for example.
Sure.
Which is totally viable. Like, if you think about things differently and you hate the game, that's fine.
But in terms of
it's
what
definitely a taste.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, nothing.
I'm done.
Oh, okay. I was saying, in terms of what you're trying to craft, you have finally crafted every molecule of it just as well as you possibly could. My fear, as a fearing man, because I'm filled with fear all the time, that the things that are wonderful are somehow going to get passed over. And then not that Paul Blart Mall Cop is the worst comedy I've ever seen, because it's actually not quite as bad as I thought it was going to be. However, when I see the Paul Blart Mall Cops of video games topping the charts, and games that are made by these hyper careful, hyper aware, sensitive, caring craftsmen such as yourself, it hurts me when your games don't do as well as I want them to. So what I'm desperately hoping is that other craftsmen who have appreciated your games in the past, other game developers, like you guys are game developers. Does that make sense? Like other developers look to you.
I feel like we don't come up much. We kind of live
I talk to video game developers every week, and you guys come up pretty regularly. And sometimes they're just name dropping because they know it makes them sound like they've been playing video games for a while and they care. It's like, oh yeah, there was this game in 2004 called N.
We felt when we made N that we had peaked because we were so old at the time. We were like in our mid-20s. We were like, if you look at the people who made Doom and how old they were when they made Commander Keen, which is like amazing, then anyway, so that's...
It's all true. And I'm hoping it all trickles down, that people who truly feel the difference between, like, again, it's like the Princess and the Pea, like, not everyone's going to lie on your average mattress and feel the thread count or the pee under there. But you guys feel it hard. And then there's other people who can feel it almost as hard as you, who are making really good games, that are going to see it in what you've made and be like blown away. Hopefully they're going to continue to talk about it, and Let's Players who really get games are going to talk about it, and it'll all trickle down to a huge audience that I hope you get, and I think you deserve. There's a question, too, that I blew right through because I was ranting about how I feel about it.
I don't know. I wanted to say...
Oh, yeah, please. And then I'll ask the question as soon as you've done.
I think optimistically that... I mean, the whole principle of the game was if you liked N or N+, you will love N++.
And that's sort of sold pretty well in the long run, right?
Yes. And I mean, like, you asked where our money came from. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but N+ continues to sell on 360, like, 10 or 20 copies a day.
Right, and since we're so small, that allows
that
us
definitely,
to stay in business.
yeah.
It's great.
But
and that came out how long ago?
2008.
Yeah, my goodness. So it's still, by the end of the week, you might have sold 100 more copies.
Maybe.
It could happen.
I mean, we kind of got lucky with timing and stuff. But basically, there are people that liked what we have done in the past, and we wanted to make sure that the more you liked it, the more you're going to like N++. But at the same time, while keeping that, like, the absolute unbroken most important rule, we definitely tried to make it so that there's just a wider range of things to engage with, both in terms of difficulty, in terms of like moods and the colors and the music, and like in terms of the level design, what the entities are and what the range of, I don't know, like.
Sure.
So there's something
I'm cynical and sad. I'll admit it. I've been writing for Destructoid for 8 years. I'll stumble upon a game that I think looks wonderful, and I'll write about it, and no one will pay attention, and then everyone will be talking about some, above average fantasy game that's kind of good, but because for whatever reason it speaks to what a lot of people like a little bit, so then everyone starts talking about it. That lowest common denominator thing.
That was Dyad. That shit did. I don't even know if it averaged 10 sales a day over its entire lifetime.
What? That's stupid. And people freaking love Dyad. I remember talking to Daphne David Drippy Nipple about it like every day.
Yeah,
and
Drippy Nipple
Tim
loves
Rogers. Yeah, a lot of the people who. Anyway, I could go on. I don't want to.
Some people are.
You're right. Nice. I really hope that our commercial potential like multiplies in the right way and not like dampens, because it's true. It's like we're really nichey people. What if instead of the niches being added together, it like is subtracting? We're getting a difference instead of.
Then we're all hopeless.
Yeah. Anyways,
we're hopeless tomorrow.
But going back to what Shawn was saying, I think we all feel like we couldn't have done a better job, or at least by the time we finish fixing all the bugs and whatnot, we will have not been able to, whatever the correct tense is for that.
Under the amount of time that it took, which is 2.5 years, I could not have made a better game. And if other people could make a better game under that amount of time, good for them. They're better than I am, but I could not make a better game.
We've spent 4, like in terms of hours, 4 solid years just working on the levels. Like full-time, 5 days a week for 4 years.
Oh yeah, when I say 2.5 years, I mean like 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
So it's like 4 years.
My God, so
we're bending space and time itself is our point. That's how much awesome cool stuff is like packed.
I feel like I'm repeating myself, but these are the things because again.
Oh wait, I remember. I know how I'm going to answer this.
Please.
It's that I think we talked about this with Shawn like 2 years ago, and I don't know if his opinion's changed, but we feel like you're right. Not many people notice this stuff, but we think that with stuff like the menus, with everything, you might not. Very few people might consciously notice it, but it can't help but affect your relationship if it's a pleasant experience. If just the act of pressing a button fills you with joy instead of frustrating you, we think you might not even notice it, but it's going to put you in a more positive, happier mood, which you're going to need to survive some of the...
I don't know, because people can accept pressing start in Windows and it taking 150 milliseconds for the start button to come up. So,
but they would be happier. They'd be happier. They just don't know how, like, this is the thing. This is so crazy when people use it. Like, I really think it'll be like a slap in the face about the quality of engineering and how you're supposed to make things well, because it's palpable. Like our friend Matthew Kumar tested it, and what was it? What was it? Was like unrealistically fast.
Yes, he called all of the server interactions unrealistically fast.
Yeah.
He didn't believe that we were actually going to servers in Virginia. We're in Toronto. He didn't believe that we were going to servers in Virginia because it was so fast. Like we actually broke the speed of light.
Wait.
I do all sorts of.
We all the back end stuff. Amit is the guy.
Maybe he can see
I don't know if you can see him. I believe Shawn did some programming on that too.
I didn't do any of the back end stuff. I did the front end stuff to hide latency to the back end. So basically, whenever you do anything, if it's going to the server,
it already knows.
You shouldn't even know that it's going to the server. It should just be doing it behind the scenes. So it should be completely instant.
Well, to use a quick analogy to close it up, my wife is a baker, and she is like not as far as you guys are yet, but in that direction of like she thinks about baking in the way you think about game design and noticing like, you know, the depth of the filaments of the flaky pastry. Like that's what she's thinking about, as opposed to like, well, does it have a cherry on top? Which is our customers. And I hate to sound elitist or classist or whatever, but there's levels of how deeply you've thought about the craft of whatever you're making. And a lot of people who play video games don't have to or are not interested in or have their own things they're doing in their life that they're thinking really hard about the craft of, and video games is like their time to decompress and not stress out about that stuff.
Sure.
So like N++ is not like, for her it's whoopie pies. Like everyone comes in and they're just like, I heard the whoopie pies are good. You got whoopie pies? And a whoopie pie is just like a piece of chocolate cake. It was frosting in the middle and slapped together. And it's like, any idiot could make this. Like, why are you buying a $9 whoopie pie for me when I made this like bizarre donut croissant combo thing that when they see it on the surface, they don't think, well, like it's the language of marketing. They don't see the croissant donut thing and say, oh, that's something that's definitely going to be something I'm going to eat, and something that was made in a certain way that's going to appeal to me. And we have this gaming culture now where people think, well, how many frames per second and what's the def and how many textures and blah, blah, blah. They think that's how you can tell on the surface how cared about a game was. All these surface level things where your game has those things too, but you're really, it's almost like everything about a game under the surface that makes it wonderful is what you maxed out on the most. Which makes me, I know you didn't ask me for a marketing brainstorming session, but I'm like all excited about N++ right now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Marketing seems to be the main thing that's gotten better in indie games since whenever they started, and so we can always use a bit of help to keep up.
Well, I'm trying to think of how can we message.
I mean, I think we've been doing an amazing job, and that the problem is that people are idiots. And they don't if they're not going to appreciate it for what it is, we're not going to change ourselves to please that, you know. But we're not so special that we're completely unique snowflakes. If we like it, and I think that we all like it, like we hate it because it's like this never-ending misery that haunts our dreams, like waking nightmare. But at the same time, at the core, we do still love it, you know. Like, or we.
The thing is, not to interrupt, but I've made a bunch of stuff. I know a lot of people have made stuff. They'll make something that the people who actually bother to play it or watch it or whatever, they're like, this is so good. But the problem is, like, everyone else was like, I'm not sure about it. So then the word of mouth doesn't spread. And you can make, like, the best thing ever. But if people don't actually take a bite out of it, then they never freaking find out. We got to make them take a bite out of it.
I think that even if your tastes are fairly shallow, if you like platformers, it's going to be really hard to dislike this game. Like, it's just so good.
Maybe.
And I'll be honest, I had nothing to do with the game design or the level design, so I can speak somewhat disconnected from that. I realize I'm connected to the project or whatever. But the levels, there's this level called Chase Ace. If you ever see it, it's just flat out one of those brilliant levels I've ever seen in video games. It's just fucking amazing because it uses the core mechanics of absolutely everything about the game in a way that I never even could have envisioned. Like, it does stuff that I didn't even think was possible with the tool set that was available to the level designers. I assume it was Raigan's level. Either way, it doesn't matter whose level it was. Right. It's just like, when I saw that, I was like, holy shit, this is the smartest thing I've ever seen in video games. And I had absolutely nothing to do with it. So
I for sure named it. It's named after a freeware game that not enough people, speaking of games not enough people know about, everyone check out a game called Chase Ace and Chase Ace 2.
I didn't even know about it.
They have the most awesome sort of anime-inspired visual effects. Like, really, before people had graphics cards, really. Like, and it just looks beautiful.
Maybe that's the marketing.
I don't remember.
Maybe we're doing the marketing now, guys. Maybe we just need to take like a few minutes of this show and divide it into 100 clips.
Did you ever see my marketing videos for Diane?
I did.
I like just woke up like hungover and was like, hey guys, you should check out my game, like that. Did you ever see those?
I did see those. I saw Tim Rogers' commercial for it.
Tim Rogers did it.
We're hoping he'll do one for us, but we don't know because he's very busy these days. But we're going to get in touch because we love his videos and him as a person.
And he's another one. He makes stuff that the people who watch it or read it love it. But how does he? Maybe we should do marketing for Tim Rogers in our spare time because he should be working this too.
I think he's reasonably well known. He probably has.
No, we only talk to
times as many Twitter followers as I do. So he's
This is what I mean. Like, we literally like.
I think I have more Twitter followers than both of you combined.
Yeah.
And I ain't got that many Twitter followers.
I think when you add it, like, basically...
I don't think we fit narratives very well.
We're just fire starters. Here's our marketing strategy is basically, we didn't do very much marketing with N+. We did some, and it was, like, pretty awesome at the time, but basically it was word of mouth, right? the 1 or 2 people out of 1,000 that this game speaks to, it speaks to them so strongly that they tell other people that they know would like it. And so we feel like it would be great if we could come back in a few months when we've seen which way it's gone. So we see whether this theory is good or whether your pessimism is well-founded.
Well,
But I feel
I hope I don't sound pessimistic. I think the game's
no,
going to do
you're
well. It's just I want it to do super duper, like, stupidly Minecraft well, is what I want.
Yeah. I think the thing is, like, I think it can't, like, I just personally realized this a week or 2 ago when our friend Matthew Kumar is playing, that there's something fundamental to the design of the game that it just means that people who never think about things at a slightly higher level they always hit a wall, because the key to this game is it's not Guitar Hero. It doesn't tell you what buttons to press when. You know what the buttons are because there's 3 of them, and you know it has to be possible. And then you have to infer the right things. And some people, they're used to platformers that are all about performance that someone else has choreographed. And they're not used to having to write the performance mentally and then perform it, or at the same time. And so those people, it starts easy enough that you can just play it as like people that are like 3 or even younger, I don't know, have played it and enjoyed it because they just run around in a room and it's fun to run and jump. But we couldn't really address that without changing the core of what it is, and we wouldn't want to anyways, because we feel like, A, the people that appreciate this stuff deserve something to appreciate, and B, if you don't appreciate that stuff, you don't deserve to appreciate it. But if you learn to appreciate it, then it's like, hopefully one person has a good idea because they see like, oh, hey, stuff can be colorful and not colorful pixels. It can be, I don't know, like there's all kinds of different stuff.
I think it's our job as game designers, though, to the people who want to appreciate it, to lead them towards a path to which they can appreciate it.
Yes.
If you artificially create walls when you're just like, fuck it, if you're not good enough, fuck you, right? Am I allowed to swear on this show?
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's a bit late for
Yeah.
that.
I should have said it's a bit too cocky.
But the point is that I think it's our job as game designers to ensure that people who come to a problem with an open mind are able to discover a solution. And I don't, no offense to present company, which I've said before, I don't think N Plus did a particularly good job of that, because there's a level 20 or 30 levels in that's just fucking impossible. It's just really hard. And no matter how much you want to solve that problem, it's just too fucking hard. And I got stuck there, and everybody I know got stuck there, and it was just whatever. But
Shawn failed to solve the meta level problem, which is that if you ever get stuck, you can always move to a different set of levels.
That's because the menus are so poorly
designed. They're not fully designed. You couldn't fit, like what we've done is we've used literally every pixel of a 1080 screen is used meaningfully. And that's why it's so complicated, because we're cramming in everything you would want to know right on one screen. And we couldn't do that back then because the TVs, we had to basically zoom in, which meant you didn't get that. Like, so it actually goes back to the game design, which is now the menus are single screen. They don't scroll as well. We unified that as well. I didn't realize that until
pretty cool.
I don't know this now either. But anyway, so the point is that like it's our job as game designers to, if you want to explore, and I think Dark Souls is probably the best example of this. If you want to explore, and I don't mean spatially, I mean mechanically or whatever. Whatever your definition of explore in sort of the abstract, if you want to explore a game, the job of the game designer is to facilitate that exploration, I think. N++ does an extremely good job of that, in that the levels are laid out in such a way, and the unlocking progress is laid out in such a way that if you have an inquisitive mind and you want to figure shit out, you're provided with all of the tools.
Yes, that's what you find fun. Like, that's the most fun part.
Yes,
like,
if you don't find that fun, I don't know. But like that's what's most interesting about games for me as a player is exploration. And I don't mean spatial exploration. I mean mechanical exploration, spatial exploration, narrative exploration, whatever type of exploration you choose to focus on. That is what's the most important in games to me. And I think N++, more than maybe any other game, potentially with the exception of Dyad, I don't know, I'd have to sort of look at it from a faraway point, encourages mechanical exploration. And I think that's really important. I think N++ probably does it better because it's rooted in platformers, which are pretty universal and everybody can understand.
It's Cartesian versus polar coordinates. We won by using the right frame of reference.
That's true. I did do everything in polar coordinates and dyad, which maybe
it just hurts your brain a bit more to think that way.
perhaps. So yes, we use Cartesian geometry for everything, in which case maybe M++ is better than dyad for encouraging exploration to those who haven't experienced it before, but are approaching it with an open mind and want to.
It's good. It's better for dyad because it makes it more unearthly and weird. You know, it's a bit alien.
It is alien, which is the problem.
And the solution.
It's like a weird alien that's like, you know, like you said, okay, I'm remembering part because there's a level name that we haven't used yet, but it's a quote of you described dyad as like a laser rainbow blast to the brain or something like that. I forget what the exact words are, but something like that.
Okay.
But it's like that. You know, that's a good. Aliens have to do that. It could people that wouldn't do that. It had to be aliens.
Oh yeah, dyad totally feels like what aliens think is normal. Like that's their average day. It's just
that's my average day.
Well, yeah, and you are sort of a human being, but you're also evolved in some ways beyond. And then you're also a tough-talking Wolverine-esque man at times as well. You give me a little bit of that, you know, hairy beast, which I love.
We had a nickname for him actually around the office.
Hairy beast.
That's clearly behind my back.
We do. I'm getting text messages from Sinistar saying we've gone a little overtime, and I had a great time. We do have one question I want to maybe throw out there real quick, and then we can wrap it up. So WH2 Roman numeral 2, I believe, asks, could you elaborate on how you kept the look and art from straying towards something referential/recognizable, by which I mean shapes becoming symbols so easily? Yeah, did you ever have to reel yourself in as well? This is something I was thinking too. Like, did you ever have the temptation to like, well, we're just gonna like go full realism. We're gonna like get a bunch of polygons, not just for awesome physics and effects with the characters, but we're gonna like mocap a guy or something.
That's a very good. There's actually a funny thing. Could you remember to say the funny thing?
I don't know what the funny thing is.
The mocap.
You have to
oh, okay.
Okay. I can't remember.
Okay, but wait. What were you just saying?
Polygons.
Oh, right.
There's a lot of fucking polygons.
Let's just say it's that it took us a long time. Like, it's a good thing it took so long to make this game, or the reason it took so long, there's like maybe 5 or 6 big ones. But one of them is that we didn't know what it would look like for like a year maybe.
Really?
And because it's like, in terms of a lot of things, like the visual, is it round? Is it sharp-cornered? And especially like what you're asking, which is like, what's the level of detail? And it's something that we didn't know what would, and it ends up that the level of detail is, I think, less than N or N+.
Yeah.
And the game is better for it. Because in N+, I mean, if you're the sort of nitpicky person that notices, the graphics alias, and they kind of shimmer and flicker as they move, and it's a bit displeasing. So we've solved that. And then in N, the graphics, like, they just look nicer, because we've learned, like, first of all, we work with the graphic designer, but that was sort of, he gave us sort of a style target to hit. Yeah, and we had to sort of integrate that into what the enemies in the game look like and stuff. But basically, it took longer to make it simpler because that's better.
Yeah, we've never wanted to go. So, like, N was in part inspired by Lode Runner, and if you follow the trajectory of Lode Runner, it eventually goes into horrific, like, isometric 3D jungle scenes and like all this horrifying graphics on top of this wonderful, wonderful game. So we knew that we never wanted to go down that path, but also it would obscure what is the most important thing, which is how the gameplay feels and how like precise and fluid and smooth and satisfying it feels. So that's why it's so minimalist. And that's why we would never ever pile on too much, because it just makes the game more frustrating.
One person in this current conversation thinks we have gone too far in terms of non-minimalist, but I think that person is very, very wrong.
Yes, I feel like the thing is, it's that like if you tone down the graphics a bit, which we've tried, it becomes slightly easier to play. Like, you wouldn't notice unless you're very used to playing, but it actually is slightly easier. But it's fine because we're going to provide a toned down graphics option at some point if people complain about it.
So yeah, the hardest thing wasn't the hardest thing. Like I think the question.
Wait, can we talk about Load Runner? Because it's exactly what you were saying about scrolling. Because there's some bad like NES versions where they couldn't fit it all on the same screen. And they scroll. The arcade version, I think, it's like.
Yeah.
It makes it's like that's just an aberration, if that's the correct pronunciation of that word. Like. It's meant to be single screen. That's how it like. Yeah,
I
no
would put more
scrolling.
emphasis on the H, but that's my opinion. Anyways, no scrolling is good. But anyway, the point is, you were asking, or the original question, a questionnaire who had Broken Arrow World 2 in their name.
How you kept it on target for what N and N plus and N plus plus.
No, we had to. I personally had to fight for less minimalism.
And Mare.
And Mare and I were on the same team.
I admit that if like in hindsight it's ridiculous the sort of things because I was against changing colors at all. It's just that I'm a very conservative type of person when it comes to media that I like, and I've been burned in the past by games that change too much and it ruins what was good about them. And so, oh yeah, everyone. But I mean, I guess it's that I'm less trusting. I'm maybe a bit more defensive, and so they were able to see that even though it was a big change, it was a good change for the better. I think it was definitely a change for the better in hindsight. But at the time, I fought a lot of. I'm basically an idiot, but I've learned a lot. But also, I do think that certain aspects go like 5% too much, including everything. Like even everything that I've done, it's that we've all kind of gone deranged at this point. So, but it's all in service of there being more there if you want it. Like it's designed so that you can literally, as far as we know, I think, play it for years and always be getting better.
Right.
And always have new things, new challenges, and new things that you're learning. Like it's just basically constant, like interesting, rewarding
and like
learning.
Big things like in terms of kind of a sort of meta layer. And tiny things like maybe animations that Shawn spent days on that you only just noticed 30 hours in. It's great. Like there's so much to explore.
Please look at those animations. I killed myself over those.
You did.
Well, I'll tell you how it sounds. It sounds like you really made several games worth of content in this game, and then there's the game in there that Raigan feels more comfortable with, which keeps it minimal and doesn't.
Oh wait, yes. Could I could also like a follow up.
Yeah.
Two of the color schemes are the original N colors and the N plus colors. So if you are like me and you're scared of change, you can live in your weird world of not.
Right.
So
that game is in there.
If you like gray and you're boring, that game is totally there for you.
Gray is
great.
Yes, that's the way better slogan for the Grain Bureau.
So if you want an N plus gray, you've got it. If you want a co-op, a cooperative friendship killing, you've got it. If you want to threaten your friends as a rocket, you've got it. If you want to reach levels of difficulty that will force you to reach a Zen-like level of oneness with the game to even come close to survive. You've got that.
Perfect description.
Thank you. Or you can just run around and do whatever in the easier levels. There's so many different things you can do in the darn game. That I am very, very confident that you and I will love it. And now, if I were to market it, that would be the worst marketing ever. I would probably start the commercial by saying, well, just so you know, I'm pretentious. So right off the bat, get ready to be irritated with me.
Wait, I've got an idea. Can we use this podcast as the launch trailer?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Have a 30 hour and 40 minutes.
If we want to communicate so people understand, and something I appreciated that you did with Shawn's interview, and that I think has happened again, is that it's like you understand, you know?
Thanks.
You understand and you think, which so few people do. Well, and I mean, I'm bad at it. We're all bad at it, but like. Anyways, I think this would be the perfect launch trailer in that
it's almost 2 hours long.
It's perfect and perfectly imperfect, which is sort of what the game is itself. So,
well, yeah. Where I was going with the rant I was on before is my marketing would be to say to the world, I just look in the world's eyes and say, if you guys don't like this game, I don't know if I want to be on this planet anymore. I don't know if I understand you people. This is what video games ought to be. And if you don't
It's
like
friendship
it, then
ending in a different way. Oh my God, 2 layers of friendship ending. Taste-wise and frustration and cult-wise. And rocket murder time-wise. 3.
yeah,
exactly.
There is some rocket murder time.
On that note, I have to thank Sinistar for letting us go long. They can follow you all on Mare. Is your Twitter just Metanet's Twitter, or do you have a separate Twitter?
No, I have Mare Sheppard at Mare Sheppard.
I have to make sure I'm following that. I'm not sure. Sometimes
I can't believe you're not.
Oh my God, the last
That's
picture,
disgusting.
the last picture is basically the cutest cat picture that's ever been uploaded to the internet.
That's a bit much.
All right. Well, there's your
I know,
marketing
but
right
we're
there.
not being hyperbolic, right?
So Shawn is on Twitter. If you can, starting with Raigan, announce your Twitter accounts and where they can, and then ending on Mare. Mare can let us know where we can find more about N++ as it happens. So Raigan, starting with you.
All right, Raigan Burns, at Raigan Burns, RAIGANBURNS on Twitter.
And then
I honestly don't remember because I changed it.
It's SSS McGrath. Is it 4 or 3?
No, it's just 3.
SSS McGrath.
Okay.
SSS McGrath.
MCGRATH, you say so.
And you, Mare.
I'm at Mare Sheppard, MareSheppard. Also, if you want to find out more about N++, you can follow at Metanet Software on Twitter, or you can check out our Tumblr, which we post behind the scenes every week. So it's just metanetsoftware.tumblr.com.
I just wanted to point out, sorry for interrupting. So about all these levels that we have, we've decided we've got so many, let's try using them in different ways. So for instance, each one of these is a little thumbnail of a level on Shawn's shirt. I don't know if you've noticed or if the camera even picks it up.
Maybe you should
It does,
get
a little
it.
bit.
Each one of those is a different level.
Holy crap.
And this is maybe 10% of the levels. He's only wearing 10%.
That's right.
I don't even know if that's...
There's 2,360. Perhaps there's 23.6 on here.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it's 10 times. But
Yeah.
anyways.
230.
Right. Wow.
Math is hard.
It's just making me think of more things to talk about, but I can't because poor Sinistar, he's crying. These crying pixel tears in the background. He's a
Thanks, Conrad.
Yes.
We'll come back when we were more popular than Minecraft.
Yeah.
So we'll see you never.
And even if you don't become more popular in Minecraft, you're still welcome back on. It'd be my pleasure. I'm at Tronauts on Twitter. You can watch this show later on YouTube, youtube.com/subhomeshow is where all the shows are. We're almost to show 150. It's pretty darn weird to have been done this for this long, but it's a lot of fun. And you can listen to it later on Libsyn and iTunes, and I think that's everything. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks.